As Bertram started packing his merchandise like he always does before closing the shop, he heard heavy footsteps outside, approaching slowly but sternly. A tall knight in ironclad armor appeared at the entrance, blocking what little light was coming inside his shop. "Name's Bertram, correct?" asked the mysterious visitor. "Yes, my lord. And your name is?" Bertram replied, visibly nervous. "Who I am is not important at the moment. What is important is that someone has plotted your murder, or to be more precise, your assassination tonight. In fact, the killer might be on the way right this moment. This is why I came here. First, to investigate, and second, to protect you in case of that unwanted visitor." As the knight was saying those words, Bertram felt deep fear and panic pulsing through his whole being. He looked at Thaddeus, his faithful bodyguard from the northern tribes, a loyal savage who protected him for well over a decade now. The mighty barbarian looked puzzled and uneasy as well. Then the knight shouted loudly, "Get down!" as he grabbed his short sword and started uttering some kind of incantation. A dark, gloomy shadow appeared at the ceiling. A humanoid figure, slender but vicious-looking and seemingly ready to pounce on Bertram at any moment. Thaddeus grabbed his great axe and let out his trademark tribal war cry, but found himself unsure who, or rather what, to engage. The knight and the shadow both looked equally threatening to him at that moment. Before he could even come up with a decision, a dark blade formed in Knight's other hand. He charged, jumped over the counter as if his bulky plate armor was crafted out of feathers, and positioned himself in between the assassin and Bertram. Then he quickly and decisively struck down the assailant the moment he, or she, leaped forward. A deafening scream filled the evening air. The figure dispersed and disappeared completely. "Lowly Shadowmancer, I haven't come across one since my master died fighting their warlord a decade ago," said the knight with an audibly more energetic tone of voice. Bertram and Thaddeus stood in shock, speechless and unable to process what just happened. "Don't worry, the culprit who caused all of this mess has been apprehended already, and is being questioned. You are safe. For now, at least," continued the knight. I don't... You just saved my life. I'm in your debt. How will I ever be able to repay?" uttered Bertram. "Well, now that you said it, you might actually have something I need," said the knight after a bit of a pause. My lord, what is it?" asked Bertram. The knight pointed to a glass box at the top shelf behind Bertram. "Those 3 big diamonds at the top. I'll need one of those. I have another deadly matter to attend to." Reluctantly, but without a single word of resistance, Bertram turned around, grabbed the box, took the diamond out, and handed it over to the knight. "Thank you. You are very generous," stated the knight, with a small bow, a sign of gratitude perhaps. He left the shop as he entered, his metal steps echoing out in the street. A few curious passerbys were standing close by, alerted by the loud noise coming out of the shop moments ago. 2 guards were rushing towards the shop as well. The knight stopped for a moment, turned towards them, and swung his mantle revealing insignia engraved in his armor. He acknowledged their approach. "Gentlemen, everything is in order. I've already dealt with the problem. Personally." The guards were clearly stupefied, but he didn't pay much attention, opting to simply pass right by them and continue down the street. A minute or two later, as he was going down a shady alley, a much smaller Shadowmancer figure formed in the palm of his right hand. I wonder if these peasants will ever learn to spot an illusion. Alright everybody, Min-Max Munchkin back with another video. First and foremost, I want to thank my patrons. So far 5 people have pledged 10 or more dollars, bucksies to my cause, to my channel. Thank you Adar Millz, Cory Clausen, Gregory, twarz, Matthew Ewing and shea deskin. Thank you for your support. Hopefully I repay all of the... I fulfill your pledges. I let's call it satisfy your trust in myself, in my channel, right? So yeah, thanks to all of you. Thank you for believing in me and my channel. Thanks for supporting me. With that said, let's quickly go over the build. Now, following some of the advice that a few of you commented in my other video, I'm going to make like this first segment of the video like a small, not small, but shorter, definitely, brief overview of the build and all of its key points. So, without too much wasting time on it, this is basically what it is. It is a Paladin of Conquest and Bard of Whispers, College of Whispers Bard. Why these two? First and foremost, we have Divine Smite from Paladin. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, already know about it. Being able to waste your spell slot, to spend your spell slot to deal 2d8 or more damage per hit, right? Then we do have that, and in a combination with Psychic Blades, being able to do a bit more burst damage, a bit more damage with a single hit than otherwise you can do, right? That's the basic driving force behind the damage dealing capabilities of this build. Psychic Blades goes off of Bardic Inspiration, and this build is going to be fairly heavily leveled in Bard, so you will also have Font of Inspiration, making your Bardic Inspiration a short rest mechanic. 2 feats, primarily Warcaster feat, and to a lesser extent Resilient feat. These 2 feats serve the purpose of maintaining your concentration on whatever concentration spell you have on. The main one, the one that I think thematically and mechanically fits the most, is the Shadow Blade spell, which you will get with your Bard's magical secrets. So you will definitely need Warcaster feat. Now, Shield and Absorb element spells, you may be wondering how you get those. Well, in my opinion, you should take 1 level of Shadow Magic Sorcerer for the Eyes of the Darkness and the Strength of the Grave, and as well as all of that, being able to take 2 Sorcerer spell list spells. I think Shield and Absorb elements are pretty much almost a mandatory 2 mandatory spells to take, because they seriously increase your defensive capabilities. Finally, we have Aura of Protection from the Paladin. This is just any type of Paladin. Level 6 Paladin gets this Aura of Protection. And with that you have plus 3, 4 or 5 to all of your saving throws, depending on your charisma, right? Charisma modifier. So yeah, I mean, that's about it in terms of these subclasses, these oaths and colleges and whatnot. College of Oath of Conquest has a lot of these very useful spells, namely Armor of Agathis and Spiritual Weapon. So Armor of Agathis further increases your defensive capabilities, giving you temporary hit points, and also indirectly it deals damage as well. Every time somebody hits you within 5 feet of you, melee attack against you also deals cold damage back to that person. and spiritual weapon, one of the best, if not the best, cleric spells, which lasts for a minute, doesn't require concentration, and deals force damage plus spellcasting ability modifier using your bonus action. So yeah, also don't forget about Channel Divinities, Guided Strike, being able to stack plus 10 bonus to the attack roll of any of your attack rolls is not a small thing. And also thematically, Conquering Presence, being able to frighten your enemies, is a very mechanically beneficial and also thematically fitting Channel Divinity. So basically this build revolves around Divine Smites, and obviously being a bard, at least part of your build is going to be a bard, you will have higher level Divine Smites earlier on, therefore having higher damage output, raw damage output, compared to just a pure Paladin. You will have flexible spellcasting choices, you being a bard, for that matter, because bards have a lot of very useful spells and you will be able to learn them, but more on that later on. It's a very strong defensive build. Your Armor of Agathis, Aura of Protection, even Aid spell, Shield and Absorb Element spells, all of that, as well as the Sorcerer's Strength of the Grave, enabling you to basically survive a lot more problems and troubles that you would otherwise be able to, right? You have very versatile both in and out of combat features. So Eyes of the Dark, basically 120 feet dark vision, it's always useful in and out of combat. Bards, even level 3 Bard of Whispers, this is a combat feature, Psychic Blades, but Words of Terror are mainly out of combat feature, you being able to manipulate your humanoids that are your targets, right? You don't necessarily have to kill somebody, you might just want to frighten him or her and yeah, do all of that. And even the Paladin being able to use the Channel Divinity, not necessarily, this doesn't have to be in combat, can be outside of the combat as well. All of this results in a character that I would say is probably the darkest type of character that I've made so far, that I'm gonna upload to this channel, and I will legitimately say that this build it can very easily be played as an evil type of character, or at least a neutral one, like lawful neutral or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's at least how I see it. You will be starting as a human. These are your starting abilities. At least that's what I think you should, because you're not going to have a lot of ability score increases, and being able to take one feat of your choice at the first level basically gives you one ability score increase, one bonus ability score increase in your case, right? All of these other things are pretty much not mandatory. The backgrounds, even the feats here that I talk about, you can take dual wielder, absolutely not required, but yeah, it further adds, it further increases a bit of your defensive capability, and also being able to wield a long sword instead of short sword while two weapon fighting could be useful. So yeah, I mean, that's about it. That's for this build in short, what the build is actually, what it revolves around briefly. If you want to hear a bit more details, if you want me to go over each and every one of these features and spells that I personally think work well with this build, you can continue with this video further on. But for all of you that wanted shorter videos, or at least shorter build overviews, this is basically it. Combining all of these features, all of these spells, results in a build that is very defensive, while maintaining a very high damage output. I think in the range somewhere of 120 to 140 damage per round. Obviously, this is a level 20 capability, But even on lower levels, this build is very capable. Again, being able to use your spiritual weapon with your bonus action, and it's only a one spell slot. You don't have to waste your divine smites every turn. You just need to spend one spell slot and then hit stuff with spiritual weapon. Yeah, I mean, this build is very well balanced. Even has like balanced short and long rest dependencies. Unfortunately, it does have somewhat weak at-will options for ranged combat, but at least, I mean, you can at least have some cantrips and at range, like thrown weapons capabilities. It's not the mode of combat that you will be engaging in most situations. So yeah, that's about it. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button. If you want this particular file and this file, you can head over to my Patreon. I'm going to plug it once again. It's only $10 per month. If you pledge the Magical Secrets tier, and you get all of these PDF and Word files used in all of my previous videos, as well as this video and all of my future videos. You will get all of these Word and PDF files, as well as invite to an exclusive Patreon-only Facebook group, and all of these lower tier benefits. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, and if you want to continue listening to me talking forever about these other things, going into too many details and nooks and crannies of this build, please continue watching this video. I'm very much thankful for all of you that do watch all of my videos, because it actually, even that fact alone, helps me with the YouTube algorithm. It increases my watch time and pushes all of my videos up, further up in the search results and recommended videos, and even homepage recommendations, suggestions, right? Yeah, anyway, we already went over these key features and characteristics. Now for the nooks and crannies. Human variant, as well, again, as I already pointed out, primarily due to the feat of choice. I do recommend starting with the Paladin, with the first couple of levels. Therefore, first level Paladin doesn't have any spellcasting capabilities. In that regard, you cannot really take Warcaster, because you need the ability to cast at least one spell. Unfortunately, first level Paladin cannot do that, but you still can pick Resilient, and even Resilient on its own, giving you proficiency in Constitution saving throws, works for the two purposes. First and foremost, it's going to make your Constitution 16. Therefore increasing your ability modifier to not 2 but 3, giving you 1 more hit point per level up. Also, as again, being proficient in Constitution saving throws helps you with all the spells that require concentration, and this build has a lot of spells that do require concentration saving throws. Obviously, in a true min-max fashion, you will be maxing your strength, charisma, and constitution, and pretty much dumping dexterity, intelligence, and wisdom. You can opt to do this, for example, and then maybe increase your wisdom and dexterity or intelligence. I don't think you should do that. I think you should maximize your hit points, because having a +1 or wisdom or intelligence or dexterity is not going to really help you that much. But having more hit points and being able to take more abuse is definitely going to help you. Racial traits, again, as well, you get 1 skill proficiency among all of these other things, and I think you should take perception, because it's one of the most useful skills in the game. It's so useful that even the sheets that these PDF, these character sheets have the passive wisdom perception as a separate passive ability check, right? There are other passive ability checks, but only the perception one is listed on the sheets. Yeah, it's a very often, it's a very frequently used skill, and yeah, take perception. Sorry, I'm a bit, my nose is a bit congested. Now background, I think, I mean, you can take whatever you want. You can take noble, you can take knight, you can take knight of the order. There are a lot of backgrounds that can easily fit with this build, both thematically and mechanically. But I think mechanically and thematically, in my opinion, Mulmaster Aristocrat fits the most, primarily due to, well, skills, that's the first. And even tool proficiencies, you get one musical instrument, one type of artistic artisan tools, so that's like calligraphy tools or whatever. Also, you get a wealthy lifestyle. You get this highborn feature, which you can use this feature to really double down on playing an obnoxiously pretentious, egotistical paladin character that is like convinced his or her cause is the only right one, his or her way of behaving in whatever kind of fantastical world you're playing in. Do know that you are playing with other people. Don't be a jerk. Don't ruin other people's fun. But yeah, why not go wild with all these personality traits and play an edgy character with like obnoxiously pretentious, egotistical personality, right? So yeah, that's about it. I think also one additional thing, for whatever reason, I tried to find an order that fits the kind of Paladin of Conquest and Whispers Bard, and I found this little known order called Order of the Black Sun. They are not really a Paladin order, but they are sort of like, they do worship a deity, or at least seek for its help. It's a Cyric deity, I'm not sure. It's like it's one of the more sinister deities in Faerun, Forgotten Realms pantheon, and one of their chapters is actually a Mulmaster, and even in that regard, Mulmaster Aristocrat fits the theme, right? So yeah, that's just a little bit of, you don't really need to take this, but I think it's a fun little even like thematic synergy, right? So that said, that's about it for the background. Now feats, I already covered those previously. You are starting with the Paladin, so you can't cast spells, therefore you kind of need to take Resilient. Warcaster obviously is the primary feat of your that's going to help you out, not only on concentration saves, but also you will be able to cast spells with no free hand, and regardless of whatever fighting style you adopt, even if you're two-weapon fighting or you're going with the one-handed weapon and the like sword and board style, you will be able to cast spells, and you will be able to cast spells and attack of opportunities, and which is a further synergy with Shadow Sorcerer, being able to take those Skag Blade cantrips, Booming Blade and Green Flame Blade. So yeah, I mean, Warcaster is definitely a must. Resilient, very important as well. You can take Dual Wielder as your third feat. I don't think it's necessary, but it does give you a +1 bonus to AC. You can use 2 longswords, or at least you can use Shadow Blade with the longsword by rules. Rules allow you, and you can draw or stow 2 one-handed weapons. This one is not that useful, but yeah, these 2 first ones are going to be beneficial to you. Not too much, but having +1 bonus to AC and on average +1 bonus to your damage is always useful, right? But yeah, it's not required. Now going to the Paladin, first and foremost you get all of the basic features, because in my mind you should start with Paladin. So hit dice is 1d10, you get all armor proficiencies, you get shield proficiency, you get all weapon proficiencies, And out of all of these skills, I think in my personal opinion, you should definitely take athletics and also insight, because all of these two skills come into play very frequently as well. And you having a lot of charisma and strength, athletics is a strength check, strength skill, and insight is wisdom, but insight is always useful to have regardless of your wisdom ability score, because you are often in a situation where you need to figure out whether something is true or false, whether some monster is, I don't know, like a beast, or somebody is just lying to you, whatever. Like this skill comes very often in play. Yeah, so that's about it. The starting equipment, whatever, this largely depends on the campaign you play. Some DMs let you use this starting equipment, some give you gold and you can buy whatever. And yeah, so we are not going to cover that. Now, Divine Sense is always a useful feature to have, being able to detect celestial fiends or undead within 60 feet of you. Also being able to detect the presence of any consecrated or desecrated places or objects. Going off of your charisma +1, you will be maxing your charisma. In that regard, this feature is going to be useful regardless of your level. Now, Lay on Hands, also a very useful feature, not the feature that this build heavily revolves around, because you will only level up your Paladin up to level 6, but being able to heal your allies for whatever amount of healing, and you do have a 30 hit points healing pool, is a good thing. Now, level 2, you get a fighting style. I would consider nothing else but defense, because dueling fighting style is not useful to you if you two-weapon fight. If you use short sword in conjunction with your shadow blade, and even if you go with a single like one-handed weapon and hold a shield in your other hand, dueling doesn't really scale that well, right? At a second level, being able to deal +2 damage is somewhat significant, because a lot of monsters at second level have like 10, 15, 20 hit points. So even +2 bonus to damage rolls can be a lot of damage. But later on, when you come across monsters with 50, 100, even 200 hit points, dueling fighting style is really, in my opinion, it doesn't scale that well. And but defense fighting style, having that +1 bonus to AC is going to matter from the second level to the 20th level, because every monster that you come across that tries to hit you with the melee or ranged or natural weapon attack is going to have a 5% less chance to hit you. While that doesn't seem like much, I think this fighting style is probably one of the best, if not the best, fighting style for Paladin, period. Now, yeah, spellcasting, you are a class that prepares spells. You are like a divine class, similar to a cleric. You pray for spells, and depending on your Paladin level, so half your Paladin level plus your charisma modifier, that's how many spells you can prepare. Also, you're a half caster, therefore, as I said, half Paladin levels, rounded down, and all your spells go off of your charisma. You don't really have ritual casting, unfortunately, but you have all of these other good things. So yeah, I mean, you cannot have it all. Now, spellcasting focus is a holy symbol. You can, by rules, have this to be on your shield, or if you're not holding a shield, it can be like a pendant or a necklace with a symbol on the chain, around your neck or whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much accounted for. Now, Divine Smite, the main feature that you will be relying on, at least for damage, because this is a very high damage. This build does do a lot of damage, not similar, not close to some of my other builds, but still going well above 100 damage per round. And Divine Smite is one of the primary generators, the primary engines behind damage dealing capabilities of this build. Now, I did say here, I did write that you spend either the 1st or the 4th level spell slot. I mean, from 1st to 4th. You can spend higher level spell slots, but you will never be able to deal more than 5d8 or 6d8 worth of radiant damage. So it only makes sense to spend 1st to 4th level spell slots. And also, obviously, you deal plus 1d8 to fiends or undead. That's kind of what Paladins as a holy class, as a divine class, it's a thematic fit. Now, divine health, you can do a lot of creative stuff with this. You being able to resist to basically being able to you being immune to disease means that you can do a lot of stuff that I'm not going to say here because it's kind of perverse, but yeah, let's just say, for example, if you visit the brothel and you come across an STD infected mistress, that disease doesn't infect you, so that's just the beginning, right? Yeah, I'm not going to start talking about all the other stuff that's going through my mind because yeah, it's too nasty. Anyway, moving forward to Oath of Conquest feature. These tenets of conquest are more like flavor, but yeah, you can base your character around them because you are a conquest paladin after all. Channel Divinity is first and foremost. Guided Strike, very useful, being able to add plus 10 bonus to the roll. Being able to turn a guaranteed miss into almost a guaranteed hit is a very good Channel Divinity. Also, Conquering Presence, frightening a creature, being able to frighten the creature around you for 1 minute is a thematic fit, and also mechanically can come in play very often. Now that itself is very good, but Conquest Paladin has a lot of very good spells. In fact, all of these spells which Paladins get as like they get these spells prepared for free as they get the 3rd and 5th level respectively, they are all good. In my mind, Armor of Agathis is like a very good spell, defensively and offensively. You being able to give yourself temporary hit points, and also deal cold damage to all melee attackers. Is not a small thing. In fact, if you upcast this spell, for example, I think I listed it here. Yeah, for example, if you use a 6th level Armor of Agathis, you add 30 additional temporary hit points to yourself, and every time somebody hits you, you deal 30 cold damage to that attacker. Now, this spell has one important thing, that as long as you have just one of these, in this case 30 temporary hit points, if you only have one left in your, for example, if you get damaged and then you only have one, you still deal 30 damage. Because if the creature hits you, it takes 5 cold damage. It doesn't say it takes only the amount of damage that you have temporary hit points. And also, yeah, both the temporary hit points and the damage increase by 5 for each slot level above 1st. Therefore, if you get hit for example for 10 damage, you take 10 damage, but the creature takes 30, right? So if you get hit by 15, you take 15 damage, but the creature gets hit by 30. So if the creature has multi-attack, for example, and hits you for any kind of damage that's below 30, it hits you 2 or 3 times, you just dealt 60 to 90 cold damage to that creature just with the one level of 1/6 level spell slot, which which is a fairly decent amount of damage, and it's nothing to be, it's very relevant. It matters. So yeah, that's for this spell. Also, command, being able to just control the creature for one turn is always a good thing. Hold person, a very nasty spell. The only thing that that's kind of, well, it's not a bad thing about a spell, but it's definitely the thing that makes this spell not that useful in many situations, is that you can only target humanoids. And in D&D in general, you are actually fighting a lot of non-humanoids, beasts, aberrations, fiends, undead. So yeah, all of those creatures, you will not be able to use hold person on them. But still, being able, if you're fighting any kind of humanoid, like a big bad evil guy, or big bad end guy, right? You can paralyze it, and every paralyzed creature is every hit against the paralyzed creature is a critical hit. So yeah, I mean, you basically double your damage. Finally, spiritual weapon, the best of these four in my opinion, even though Armor of Agathis comes close. Spiritual weapon, being able to upcast it for 4d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier, so 4d8 plus 5 with your bonus action attack for a full minute, so you only spend one 8th level spell slot if you are a 20th level character, obviously, and deal 4d8 plus 5 damage every turn on your bonus action for one full minute without spending your concentration. So that means that you can concentrate on your Shadow Blade or any other concentration spell and have spiritual weapon up during that simultaneously. Makes this spell ridiculous, especially as you being a bard and being able to have those higher level spell slots up to level 9, obviously. It's a very nasty thing, very good thing to have, and yeah, that's about it for the spells. And obviously, as you level up, you will get these other features. Ability score increase at 4th level. You will get extra attack at 5th level, being able to have double the smites with your attack action. And also being able to, especially if you go sword and board, having only one attack per round is like, it's not that good, but having two means that you have two chances to use both of your psychic blades, which deal psychic damage, and your divine smite, which deal radiant damage. So yeah, I mean, earth extra attack is very good, always good to have as a melee attacking paladin. Finally, we have Aura of Protection. I should probably also make this red, right? Because this is the one of the primary defensive features of this build, being able to add your charisma modifier to all of your saving throws, including your charisma saving throw. Pretty much results in a character with 20 charisma who has these ridiculous saving throws, even +4 on intelligence, and you have a -1 with your ability score. Yeah, I mean, all of your saving throws are going to be ridiculous, and that's why I think you should go at least 6 levels in Paladin, because this thing is ridiculous. Anyway, that's it for Paladin. Now let's go over Bard a little bit. Let's first close all of this. Yeah, there we go. Now Bard. First and foremost, multiclassing rules state that when you go from Paladin to Bard, you get all of these proficiencies. You get one skill, and in this case, I think you should take Intimidation, because even your Words of Terror revolve around Frightened Condition. Your Oath of Conquest, Channel Divinity, revolves around Frightened Condition. So Intimidation skill makes the most sense, and that's at least what I would do. You can take whatever other skill you want. Obviously, it's a purely mechanical choice in that regard. But I do like my builds to be built revolving on as much thematic and flavor and fluff synergy as much as your mechanical synergy. You also get one musical instrument of your choice. Now, first and foremost, you get the bardic inspiration, one of the signature features of any bard, being able to use your bonus action to give your ally within 60 feet your bardic inspiration die, and that character, that ally, can use that d6 or later on d8 die in the next 10 minutes on any ability check, attack roll, or a saving throw, and being able to add up to 6 or even 8 on any attack roll, ability check, or saving throw can actually mean a difference between life and death, can mean a difference between a lot of damage being dealt by that character or no damage being dealt by that character. So yeah, this feature on its own is very good. Now, as you level up, you will get this Font of Inspiration feature at level 5, which will turn your Bardic Inspiration feature, which on its own is a long rest feature, it will turn it into a short rest, and which is also going to be to make your build that more proficient in combat, because with the 5th level of Bard and the 5th level of Paladin, for example, you can every short rest add your psychic blades to once per turn on all of your attacks, and that being a short rest mechanic, you just after every combat, when you spend all of your bardic inspiration dice on psychic blades, you can just take 1 hour short rest and do it again. Now, spellcasting, you are a full charisma based spellcaster, and going up to 13 or 14 level of Bard, you will get 7th level Bard spells and spell slots. Also, you will get ritual casting, and Bard is a class that doesn't prepare spells. You are a class that learns them, so when you learn a spell, you can, every time you level up, you can learn one additional spell and also exchange one of your already learned spells for another spell. That's how this feature works. Jack of all trades, also one of the signature features of bards. At 2nd level, you add half your proficiency bonus rounded down to any ability check you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. That also means that for spells like Dispel Magic and Counter Spell, you can add your half of your proficiency bonus on the ability checks that you make with these spells. And that can also often make a difference between a failed Dispel Magic and a failed Counter Spell and a successful one. Now, Song of Rest, it's not that useful, but every short rest being able to add 1 additional hit dice is always good. I mean, you can often spend your short rest and actually preserve one of your hit dice and use the Song of Rest one. And also all of your allies, any friendly creature who can hear you, can make that additional healing, right? You basically, what this feature does in an Imagine setting is you stand around and use your musical instrument to provide some kind of healing to your allies. I don't know how that works, but yeah, you can imagine that being done in some way, shape or form. Yeah. So expertise, 3rd level and 10th level, you get two expertises, right? Doubling your skill proficiency bonus on 2 of your ability checks. In this regard, I think you should take, well, I didn't actually put it right here, but you should definitely take deception, I think. You can take athletics. I think you should take also intimidation. Insight can be worth it. Definitely perception, and yeah, the 4th one can be any of these. I think you could take insight because it's also a very useful skill. Plus 11 to athletics is almost enough on its own. So yeah, you can definitely do that. Now, okay, well, it's not plus 11, it's plus 10, right? plus 6 from this, plus 6 from... Oh, yeah, it's plus 11, yeah, definitely. Okay, so there's that. That's for the expertises, one at 3rd level and one at 10th level. Psychic Blades. Psychic Blades is the Whisper's Bard feature. It's a combat feature, being able to stack 2d6 or later on as you level up 3d6 and 5d6 worth of psychic damage. Is both a thematic fit and also a very, very, very beneficial feature in combat, where you being able to kill monsters before they can kill you matters a lot. Basically, combining Divine Smite damage, which is a very, very decent burst type of damage on its own, with Psychic Blades, which once per turn adds 2d6, 3d6 or 5d6 depending on your bard level, basically means that with one successful hit you can deal a heck ton of damage, and especially if that is a critical hit, that burst damage can actually almost, well, in certain situations, definitely one hit kill the monster. In other words, being able to kill that monster before that monster can even deal any type of damage to you, or even potentially kill you depending on the situation. Now, Words of Terror, the feature also that you get at the 3rd level, revolves around the frightened condition. Targets only humanoids, but it's a fairly low level feature that you can use very, very often, even later on, and you can use this very creatively. And depending on how often and how creatively, intelligently you use this feature, it can actually produce a lot of interesting results, let's call it like that. And also it's a short rest mechanic, so it further adds onto your short rest, long rest balanced dependencies, right? A lot of your features, your oath, your channel divinities, all of these features are going to be short rest, right? So further down below we have 3 ability score increases at 4th, at 8th and 12th level. We also get Counter Charm. Unfortunately, this is a very mechanically inferior feature, one of the often hated features of Bard. However, it does interfere with your action economy. However, you do have it, and thematically it kind of does make sense to have this for this particular build. Because what type of character who is very intimidating, frightening, who frightens and intimidates everybody around himself or herself, is at least not somewhat more, it doesn't have at least somewhat more proficient prowess in being able to resist similar kinds of situations, right? So you being able to have advantage on saving throws against frightened and charm conditions is sort of a thematic fit on its own. Now, Whisper's Bard at level 6 get the Mantle of Whispers feature. This is also one of the features that you can use very creatively if the DM lets you. Especially, for example, if somebody dies next to you and then you take their face or whatever, you transform into a disguise that appears on you, and not only you appear as somebody else, you also, while you're in disguise, you gain access to like the basic information that humanoid would freely share with a casual acquaintance. So basically, if you want to infiltrate some type of criminal organization or secret cult or whatever, you can kill one of their cultists, one of their members, or one of your allies can kill her or him, and you just take the disguise of that character, right? And you gain basic information from that person, therefore learning what that cultist, what that member of the organization knew. So right from the beginning, you can actually use this feature very, very effectively when you are dealing with scenarios and encounters that revolve around some type of secrecy, right? Because as you move on, as more and more humanoids die next to you and you take their their disguise, their appearance. You learn more and more you will learn more and more details about what those characters knew. So yeah, I think it's a very powerful feature in the hands of creative players and out-of-the-box thinkers. Finally, Magical Secrets, a level 10 feature, very important to you, because I think in your case you should definitely take Shadow Blade spell, yeah, I mean, only bar, yeah, okay, definitely. So this feature revolves only around your bard spell slots, so you can take any spell that you have spell slots for, and a 10th level bard can take up to 5th level spells, and you can learn them. It can be from any spell list, doesn't have to be your spell list. It can even be a cantrip, but in your case you will be taking counter spell and Shadow Blade. At least that's what I would strongly suggest you to do. Shadow Blade is a very thematically synergistic spell, and also deals psychic damage, and counter spell works with your Jack of all trades, as I already covered before. So yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I did write 13 or 14 level of Bard is 1 level of Shadow Sorcerer. Now, you don't actually have to take 1 level of Shadow Sorcerer, even though I think that I strongly suggest that you do. I advise you to do, because primarily you do get 120 feet dark vision, which is a feature that is going to be useful to you every time that you find yourself in the night time, or in a dark dungeon, in a dark room, whatever kind of place that is in total darkness. This feature is going to provide an instant solution for that problem. However, you also get access to Skag Blade cantrips, so Booming Blade and Shadow and Green Flame Blade, and also the first level defensive spells that sorcerers have access to, which are Shield and Absorb Elements. Now, you can take, for example, Shadow Blade and Shield with your Magical Secrets. Unfortunately, you do have to wait 4 more additional Bard levels, and by the time you get to a 14th level Bard, your character is going to be a 20th level character. In most campaigns, in most scenarios, you don't even reach 20th level, and even if you do, you don't play too much on that level. So therefore, I think you should take Shadow Sorcerer fairly early on in your character progression, just for the ability to take these 2 spells, to get the Skag Blade cantrips, and just overall being able to take Dark Vision. And also, don't forget, Strength of the Grave is also one of the defensive features that, depending on the amount of damage that you take, is going to make a difference between you dropping down to 0 hit points or dropping down to 1. So yeah, if for whatever reason you don't want to use Shadow Sorcerer, 1 level of Shadow Sorcerer, or maybe your DM doesn't let you for whatever story-wise or mechanical reasons, you can take definitely a 14th level of Shadow Lore, of College of Whispers Bard, and yeah, I mean, once per rest, you will also get the 14th level Whispers Bard feature, as well as the Magical Secrets. And the 14th level feature is fairly good, but it's like a 20th level feature for you, and again, you will probably never get to use it, or like even if you get to use it, it's going to be only once or twice, if. So yeah, that's about it for the classes. I would definitely suggest you do take 1 level of Shadow Sorcerer, at least 6 levels of Paladin, and yeah, 13th level of 13 levels of Bard. That's how I would do it. That's at least how I would split this build. So yeah, that's about it. Now, in terms of spells, I'm going to try to make this short because this video is already 1 hour long. So yeah, basically your Bard cantrips, Vicious Mockery. What Bard doesn't have this cantrip? It also deals psychic damage. So yeah, it's a perfect thematic and mechanical fit. Also being you being able to have at least some type of ranged capability if you decide not to take a Shadow Sorcerer is a good thing for you. Now, message, I think you being a Whispers Bard is kind of it's kind of mandatory that you take this cantrip, because you don't have to, but you are a Whispers Bard. It says it so in your name, and you kind of have to have some kind of further magical capability to whisper horrible stuff to random NPCs, right? Or whatever kinds of creatures that you target with this cantrip. Minor Illusion is just a very, very powerful cantrip overall. In general, it does depend a lot on your DM. Some DMs actually don't allow Minor Illusion to effect any meaningful type of result on the battlefield or in some kind of scenario, in some kind of situation. But yeah, overall, this is a powerful tool in any arsenal of the creative or intelligent player, right? And finally, I think you should take Prestidigitation, because this cantrip is overall very useful. It does have a lot of these small features that come up in play very frequently. Especially you being able to clean yourself, put up a small fire, create, like make a stench into a very, very pleasant spell or smell or whatever. So yeah, that's it for Bard. Now, Sorcerer, just being one level of Sorcerer, gives you only, well, not only, but gives you 4 cantrips. Again, as I already pointed out, I think you should take both blade cantrips, both the Green Flame Blade and the Booming Blade, because both of them are good. Booming Blade definitely, because it has a lot of Warcaster feat synergy. You being able to cast this cantrip on attack of opportunity means that you deal additional instant 1d8 or 2d8 depending on your character level damage. And then again, if that target moves, and if the target continues moving, that target will take additional 1d8, 2d8 or 3d8 damage depending on your character level, right? So this is, I've already played Sorkadin, which had a Warcaster feat and Booming Blade. I think I already talked about it in one of my previous videos. So yeah, this synergy, the Warcaster feat synergy and the Booming Blade synergy, is very, very powerful. Now, Green Flame Blade is by default marginally better in DPR than extra attack against 2 adjacent enemies. This is only if you use your mundane weapon, if you use your short sword or long sword. If you are using Shadow Blade spell, then Green Flame Blade is definitely doesn't deal as much damage. But if you just take out your ordinary mundane weapon, Green Flame Blade against 2 adjacent targets does deal marginally better DPR than extra attack. I did calculations, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's like 1.5 or even like 2 points worth of damage difference between just hitting stuff 2 times with your sword, or using Green Flame Blade as your cast a spell action. Finally, I think you should take some ranged capability. Unfortunately, you will never be able to come up even close to the type of damage you can do with your melee weapon attacks. With your melee weapon attacks, you can combine Psychic Blades and your Divine Smite. With your cantrips, you can only cast cantrips again. Chill Touch enables you to prevent enemies from healing completely, and Ray of Frost enables you to prevent enemies from escaping, sort of, because Ray of Frost actually reduces the movement speed of the target creature by 10. It also deals some 1d8 cold damage, and also Chill Touch deals 1d8 necrotic damage. Chill Touch kind of has a further thematic feat, even though it's a necrotic damage. It's kind of sinister, necromancy type of magic is on its own a bit darker type of magic, and you are sort of like a sinister, darker type of character, so yeah, it only makes sense. That's what I would at least suggest you do. Now moving on to the first level spells, the Paladin spells I already talked about, Armor of Agathis and Command, so I'm not going to cover those in further detail. For example, as you get your second level Paladin and you get access to first level spells, Bless is going to be amazing for you, because frankly you are not going to have anything else other than, for example, Wrathful Smite or Protection from Evil and Good. But Bless is very good because it enables you to have higher bonus to attack rolls and higher bonus to saving throws, including the Constitution saving throw that you have to make every time you take damage, because this is a concentration spell. So this spell actually buffs itself in some way, if you think about it in that way, right? So yeah, it's amazing at low levels, but there are better spells to concentrate on later as you level up. Wrathful Smite. I don't really like a lot of Paladin's Smite spells. I'm not talking about Divine Smite here as a feature. I'm talking about spells that have Smite name, Smite word named in them, right? That are named with the Smite. Wrathful Smite makes sense both thematically and also mechanically, because it's one of the better, if not the best, Smite spells the Paladin can prepare, because it deals psychic damage first and foremost. It's not very often resisted type of damage, so mechanically it's very good. Thematically it's a perfect fit because it deals psychic damage. Additionally, if the target is a creature, it must pass a wisdom save and be frightened. If the target fails a wisdom saving throw, it has to spend a full action to make additional wisdom check. So it's not a guaranteed way to remove the frightened condition from it's not a guaranteed way to remove it, and even further on, if it wastes an action to remove that frightened condition, it's not a guaranteed way to remove it. So yeah, I mean, this is a very mechanically powerful spell, and I think you should definitely have it prepared, at least for this type of character, because you will get to do amazing, intimidating, frightening stuff, right? You will get to roleplay your character while in combat. This is something I very much like to do with my own types of characters, and I think it's definitely a fun way to play the game. Finally, we have Protection from Evil and Good. This is an amazing spell for a lot of monsters that you come across. So just the sheer amount of types of creatures that this spell works against is like insane. A lot of creatures are elementals, fae, aberrations, fiends, undead. I'm not sure if you're going to fight a lot of celestials, because I mean, if you're evil, then yeah, I mean, even if you're an evil character, you will get to fight celestials probably at some point. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, one important thing that I only recently learned about this spell is that it consumes its material components. So you either need holy water or powdered silver or iron. Both of these are worth, I think, 25 gold. So every time you cast this spell, you have to basically spend 25 gold to cast it, because it consumes the material components. I actually myself didn't know this about this spell, so yeah, pay close attention. It's actually very important. Well, if your DM doesn't care, then it's not, but I personally care about this stuff, and I actually myself didn't know this. So yeah, it's kind of important. With your sorcerer spells, you will definitely, as I already covered before, take shield and absorb elements. I think nothing else from this list matters more to you other than those two. I mean, yeah, you can, for example, not take absorb elements because it kind of is situational. But even if you think about it, shield is situational, because not every time you fight a monster, that monster is going to be making attack rolls against you. Sometimes monsters actually inflict saving throw effects on you, and being able to absorb elements, So all of these types of damages as a reaction is definitely a good thing to have. So yeah, I think, in my opinion, you don't even have to consider any of these other spells. Just take these two and be done with it. Now, finally, Bard first level spells. Even if I hope, yeah, okay, I did. Dissonant Whispers. It's an action spell, it's an enchantment. Unfortunately, you have a lot of other stuff to do with your action. For example, attack stuff with your Shadow Blade. However, due to the fact that it's an instantaneous effect and it sort of creates a pseudo frightening effect because the creature has to move away from you as far away as possible, and the fact that it deals psychic damage, it's sort of like both a thematic and mechanical fit, mechanical synergy. Well, not a synergy, but mechanical and thematic flavor fit for your type of character. And Dissonant Whispers on its own is a very good spell to have because it does have a little bit of battlefield control utility. However, it loses potency at higher levels for this build, especially when you get access to your Shadow Blade. So yeah, I think every bard should have some type of healing. You do have already some type of healing, you being a paladin. But unfortunately, the Lay on Hands uses your action. Now, Healing Word is very good because it uses your bonus action, so it fits very well with your build because you can use your action to hit stuff with your sword or a Shadow Blade and then use your bonus action to heal somebody in your party who dropped to 0 hit points. I think every bard should have at least some healing spell in his arsenal. Finally, I think you should take a bit of utility. Comprehend Languages and Identify comes to mind because these two spells come up very often. I mean, you can take Detect Magic and then you can cast them as rituals. Yeah, I mean, you can pick and choose. You can even take all three of them, but you have to have in mind that you being a bard, even a high level bard. Okay, sorry that something happened. Okay, there we go. You being a high level bard, you can only learn up to, I think it's like 15 or 16. Yeah. Okay, so for 13th level bard, okay, 16 spells. You can only know 16 spells. I don't know. I would definitely take these two. Think about that Detect Magic. If you want, you can take it. If not, it's not really necessary, especially if you have other caster in team that has access to that spell. That said, Detect Magic does come up very often, but so do these other two spells, Comprehend Languages and Identify. So yeah, pick and choose your poison. Level 2 spells from Paladin, I already covered the ones that you get from your class, basically your oath spells. So these two, I'm not going to go further in detail about them again, but from the ordinary bard paladin spell list, you get the Find Steed and the Aid spells. These two are so ridiculously powerful and good for you. I think every paladin, if he or she wants to play the paladin optimally, has to have these two spells prepared. Or at least Aid prepared. You don't have to really have Find Steed prepared at all times, because once you create your warhorse, you can have it alive. You can have it on for forever, or at least until that horse dies. But yeah, definitely consider these two spells. In terms of these other spells, Lesser Restoration, there are a lot of effects that it cancels, so you can have it prepared. And Zone of Truth or Locate Object. Probably Locate Object is maybe even a better choice, because you can sort of emulate the Zone of Truth effects with the Suggestion spell that I will talk shortly from the Bard spell list. But yeah, I mean, especially if you don't have Bard and you want to interrogate one of your prisoners, you kind of Zone of Truth is a very good spell to have in that situation. But Locate Object is also a very good spell to have overall, because oftentimes you will want to locate an object that you are familiar with, either by either due to the fact that you will want to find somebody, and you know that somebody is wearing or carrying something that you are familiar with, or whatever. This spell has a lot of very useful applications. So yeah, that's about it for Paladin. In terms of Bard spells for 2nd level, I would definitely say that you must learn Suggestion, because as you can read here, you can basically make anybody your bitch for 8 hours, right? So also Detect Thoughts. I think Detect Thoughts thematically fits very well into this type of build. You kind of mess with people's minds, with their emotions. So being able to detect what they are thinking is sort of goes hand in hand, especially if you want to detect what that person is thinking and then apply one of your features, for example, words of terror or whatever, to that humanoid, right? So I think you should have it for just that thing alone. Yep, that's about it. So Detect Thoughts and Phantasmal Force, again, it's another spell that deals psychic damage. It does have a lot of I mean, intelligence saving throw. Not a lot of monsters have, especially if they are beasts or monstrosities. Not a lot of creatures have high intelligence saving throws. So this spell is good in that regard, and also it creates it does deal psychic damage, so it's a thematic fit. That's about it. I think, I mean, self-explanatory, right? Now, moving on to the level 3, we are only going to be covering Bard spells here, because Paladin's 6th level Paladin doesn't have access to 3rd level spells. So yeah, moving on only with Bard. Dispel Magic, as I already talked about before, Jack of all trades, synergizes with Dispel Magic. So yeah, Dispel Magic is basically a must for you, or pretty much, in my opinion, any Bard out there. Leomon's Tiny Hut as well. In my opinion, this is just my... Well, this is my opinion, but it is a strong opinion. I think every Bard needs Leomon's Tiny Hut. I mean, if you are a 5th level Bard and you don't have this spell, in my opinion, what the heck are you doing? Now, Major Image, it's another illusion spell. This build does deal with a lot of illusions, but then illusions are sort of like a mind tricking magic on its own. So, and you are a whisperer, you kind of mess with people's minds, not just in frightening manner, but in a confusing manner. So yeah, I think Major Image makes sense. It's a very powerful spell on its own. It does depend a bit on a DM, that's why I didn't make it full red, because some DMs I've read or I've heard actually just ignore the effects that you create with a 3rd level illusion, which can emulate both the oratory. What is it? I actually even forgot. I think it's several effects, right? Because you can't create damage, but it seems completely real, sensory effects included. So your audible, your optical, and the sense of smell can also be included in these with this spell. It's a 3rd level magic spell. It's very powerful. You can make something seem completely real. So yeah, if you're a bit creative, if your DM is not a prick, take this spell. Now, the other 2 spells that make sense thematically are Fear and Enemies Abound. You don't have to take them; they are kind of situational. Enemies Abound, I've had the opportunity to actually see this spell recently in play. I was DMing for my group of players. One of them cast Enemies Abound. It's a fairly useful spell to have if you cast it on a powerful enemy, because that enemy all of a sudden thinks that everybody is an enemy, even its allies. He or she considers them enemies, so you can basically turn your enemy into your, well, not your ally, but at least pseudo friendly creature, right? Because especially if you target some kind of spellcaster in the back who has all of his or her or its allies in front of him, her or it, and you cast the enemy's bound on that creature, which actually happened in my campaign, and that creature failed, and yeah, it was killing all of my creatures, all of its allies. It was basically just killing them instead of the players. So yeah, this is a very good spell in that situation. Fear, it's another frightened condition inducing spell. It's a wisdom save. It does eat up your concentration, but lasts for 1 minute. It's a 3rd level illusion. Very, very powerful. So yeah, you definitely consider taking it. Now, moving on to level 4 spells, I think you should have a greater invis, because it's a very, very powerful combat buff spell. Unfortunately, it is also a concentration, but oftentimes you will want to be invisible more than instead of dealing more damage, because sometimes, especially if you are fighting a creature that deals a lot of damage back to you, you kind of want to prevent that from happening, right? And turning invisible, in other words, that creature having disadvantage on all attack rolls against you, and you having advantage on all attack rolls against that creature or any other creature in that regard. Yeah, it's very, very good. Now also locate creature, similar to locate object. With this spell you can locate any type of creature that you're familiar with, and basically nothing can hide from you as long as it's within 1000 feet. So that's about it. Level 5, we have scrying, obviously almost auto include in any spell list with any character. This one is no exception. Another spell to consider that I would actually even recommend strongly is Synaptic Static. Now, it doesn't deal a lot of damage, but it deals it deals a lot of psychic damage, and as we already covered a lot in this build, more psychic damage equals more thematic fit. And also this is an AoE effect that deals psychic damage, which is not very resisted damage type. In that regard, I think this spell is very, very good. But unfortunately, I wouldn't make it fully red, because it deals the same amount of damage as a 3rd level spell, which we all know what it is. It's a fireball. It's the same kind of AoE, so 20-foot radius. In that regard, it kind of deals less damage than a 5th level fireball, but it deals psychic damage. It's a thematic fit, less resisted damage type. Yeah, therefore nothing else to tell about it. Now, 6th level spells, I oftentimes and pretty much always talk about mass suggestion. I think this spell is ridiculous. I've had the situation to see this spell in action, and just that one situation where when I saw this spell in action was enough evidence, enough proof for me that this spell is plain ridiculous. I think everybody should have this spell if they have access to 6th level spells, so any 11th character or above. Another spell to consider is, I think, Eye Bite is a necromancy spell. It actually, it does eat up your concentration, but sometimes you actually don't want to hit stuff and deal damage to them. Sometimes you want to overwhelm one creature per turn, right? Because you can, every turn you can affect different creature with these effects. And there's Frightened, Unconscious, Sickened. Yeah, a lot of these effects are really, really good. Especially, for example, if you're fighting a flying creature, and the flying creature is casting some kind of ranged attack on you, you just sickened it, and that target has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks, which is a very good thing to have on the enemy, right? So I think that's good. Otto's Irresistible Dance, while not a thematic fit, is kind of just for the lols. The target has to dance, which is, I think, has a lot of comedic potential. Finally, level 7, there are a lot of good spells. One of them is definitely Resurrection. The only one I would consider a bad 7th level spell for you, or pretty much for any other character, is Mordekainen's Sword. It is a 7th level invocation. It does deal force damage, which is the least type of resisted damage. I only think that like animated armor, and I think that's about it. Only one creature is resistant to force damage. Unfortunately, when you compare a 7th level, when you compare like a 6th level Shadow Blade or 7th level, whatever, doesn't matter, and Mordenkainen's sword, it's like lacking 3d10 force damage. Yeah, it's cool, but Shadow Blade deals 5d8 psychic damage. So I don't know, man. Also, it's a concentration. It hovers within range, so you don't even hold it. You just like make it in like within the 60 feet worth of range. It does have a movement speed up to 20 feet, but you have to use your bonus action. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, even if you think about it, it's better to just cast Spiritual Weapon because it doesn't eat up your concentration. This spell is, I don't know what they were thinking with this spell. It's kind of cool. It does have a cool factor, but I don't know. I would never consider taking this spell. Anyway, all of these other spells are really good to have. I would definitely consider having Resurrection. It's a fairly expensive type of revive spell, but you can touch a creature that has been dead for a century, so like 100 years. That's a lot of time to cover. You can basically revive any dead king or, I don't know, important figure that has been dead within the century. So therefore that is good. Force Cage is good, Teleport is good, all of these other can be very, very good as well. I guess Symbol is kind of situational as well, but yeah, I mean, it can be useful. Even Symbol can be useful in certain cases. So yeah, I think definitely consider some of these. Teleport, there it is. Resurrection already covered, and Force, not more. Sorry, Force Cage. There we go. Yeah, Force Cage is very good for trapping your enemy and killing it while trapped inside the 20 feet cube of death. There we go for the spells. Now, briefly about magical secrets. I already talked about Shadow Blade. Upcast at 7th level, it deals 5d8 plus 5, definitely. So, again, if you consider that a 7th level Mordenkainen's sword deals 3d10 force damage, but this one deals 5d8 plus 5, which is definitely more damage than Mordenkainen's sword. It does eat up your concentration, but it deals more damage. It's a thematic fit, therefore I think you should have it. I'm not sure why I put Synaptic Static here, when you can take it as just a pure bard. Anyway, so Counter Spell, I think, is another magical secret you should have. It's just, I mean, you already have Dispel Magic, so you being able to dispel some permanent magical effect, and due to the fact that you will be engaging, or at least you will want to engage primarily in close quarters combat in melee range, you having Counter Spell and basically cock blocking all of those spellcasters that are fighting against you is a good thing to have because, again, it synergizes with your Jack of all trades, right? And that's about it for spells. Progression wise, I think this build, there are two ways. I think you can take the tried and tested, the safe route, going first with Paladin up to level 6, then take 1 level of Sorcerer for the Dark Vision, and finally take 13 levels of Bard. I think that's a fairly okay way to build, to level up. You can consider taking Sorcerer sooner, especially if you are playing from level 1. For example, you can take 2 levels in Paladin, then take 1 level of Sorcerer, then continue up to 6 levels of Paladin. Either way, it's a good way to level up. Unfortunately, yeah, this will be viable at any level, but you will get all the core features fairly late, around level 10. So, around level 10, if you consider level 7, you will get your Sorcerer, and then level 10, you will get your 3 levels of Bard, which will give you a Psychic Blade. So if you can't wait for 10th level to get your Psychic Blades, and you being able to combine it with Divine Smite and everything else, I think you can definitely consider this alternative type of progression. which basically means that you will take first 2 levels in Paladin, then 1 level in Sorcerer, then 3 levels in Bard. One important thing that you will not have is extra attack from a 5th level of Paladin, but you will get Psychic Blades. And if you consider that if you take 2 weapon fighting style, meaning that you wield 2 short swords, or you will definitely be able to land at least 1 psychic blade in most rounds of the combat, and stacking that with Divine Smite. Also, in this particular case, you will have higher level spell slots. So a pure bard at 6th level only has like 4-2, I think, or 4-3. 6th level paladin, yeah, okay, so 6th level paladin will only have 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level spell slots. Multiclassed paladin sorcerer bard will have like 4 levels of pure, like pure this, so 4-3, and then 1 more level of half caster. So basically you will be a 5th level multiclass spellcaster, and you will have 4-3-2, which is 3 more spell slots and 2 more higher spell slots than the second one. So you will have less attacks per round, but you will be able to deal similar, if not even more damage, combining your higher level Divine Smites and your Psychic Blades on your hits. And you will also have 100 feet dark vision, Strength of the Grave, you will have cantrips, you will have the shield and absorb elements. You will be overall more defensively capable. You will have more versatile defensive options to use. And then from that point on, you can choose to continue with Bard and then switch to Paladin by the end of your progression. Especially if you need more spellcasting in your party, definitely go with Bard. You definitely won't regret it. Alternatively, if you do have a Wizard, Sorcerer or Cleric in your party, you can switch back, finish Paladin, and then finish Bard up until level 20, or whatever level you finish at. So yeah, that's about it. Let's just quickly go over the two ways of fighting with this build. Both ways are equally viable, I think, in my opinion. One way is definitely will deal a bit less damage, but I think just based on the picture, I think what type of fighting I prefer. I prefer 2-weapon fighting. You will have 1 less armor class, 2 less armor class, because you won't have your shield. But if you choose the defensive fighting style, I mean, that's the only fighting style that makes sense in this particular case. Basically, combining your Shadow Blade with your Short Sword, your Psychic Blades, and your Divine Smite, you will be able to deal somewhere around 120 to 140 damage per round, depending on the turn that you're playing, which is a fairly decent amount of damage on its own. It's not the most damage that you can squeeze out of any type of multi-class build that even I covered some of builds that deal even like 180 to like 250 damage in a round. But yeah, this is a fairly high damage output on its own, regardless of how much it is. And you will be very capable in melee combat. Now, I opted to make this character without the dual wielder feat. If you take the dual wielder feat, you will have 1 additional armor class, making it 20. I don't think it's necessary. Also, if you take the dual wielder feat, on top of you being a 20 armor class, you will be able to use a long sword instead of short sword, so this will be a 1d8. I don't think that makes too much of a difference. It's on average only 1 more damage per hit, and due to the fact that you are only hitting once with your bonus action, I don't think it matters that much. Finally, instead of 2-weapon fighting, you can opt to take your shield, and especially if you take the dueling fighting style. Now, if you take the dueling fighting style, your Shadow Blade will deal 2 more damage per hit. So instead of 5d8 plus 4, 4 from strength, you will deal 5d8 plus 6. Unfortunately, your armor class is not going to be 21, it's going to be 20, because defensive fighting style is not giving you 19, it's going to give you 18. and then with your shield in hand you will have 20. Still good. But yeah, I mean, you can consider doing that if you want to just deal like on average 4 more, well, not on average, but like definitely deal 4 more damage per your attack action if you hit twice, obviously. So yeah, I mean, this type of fighting style definitely deals a bit less damage compared to this one. But I think in terms of optimal type of gameplay, you can consider it. Why? Primarily because spiritual weapon, I already touched a bit on that before. Spiritual weapon, if you upcast it as an 8th level spell, and you do have one 8th level spell, you waste only 1 spell slot, and this spell lasts for a full minute. So for a full minute, using your bonus action, well, first of all, you will cast bonus action Shadow Blade at the beginning of the combat, deal damage that way. And then you will be on a second turn for a full minute, you will be able to cast Spiritual Weapon, which is not a concentration, so you can have it active simultaneously with your Shadow Blade, and deal 48 plus 5 force damage. Now again, it will deal a bit less damage compared to just pure 2-weapon fighting monstrosity that burns all of its spell slots on Divine Smite. But if you think about in terms of averages, 140 compared to 130, or even like 125 if you do keep your defensive fighting style, it's not much of a difference in terms of damage output, but it is much more optimal in terms of your resource management, because instead of wasting your bonus action every turn and then wasting all of your 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st level spell slots, you can just spend 1 8th level spell slot, have it up for a full minute, and then conserve all of your other spell slots here for later on, for example, for another combat where you can go with a 2-weapon fighting style. So yeah, I mean, this is a very viable way to approach combat as well. Even if you want to just combine it with the 2-weapon fighting, you can do both. Definitely. And yeah, that's about it for the build. If you like this build, if you liked my 1.5 hour long rambling and talking about the details forever and ever, like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button. Again, if you want these files, if you want this Word file, if you want this PDF file, you can go over to my Patreon, pledge $10 or even more if you want. I'm not saying you need to, but if you want to, you will get access to all the PDF Word files used in all of my previous videos, including this one, invite to an exclusive Patreon-only Facebook group, lower tier benefits, so all of these. And yeah, my eternal gratitude, because you are bringing me that closer to actually turning this channel into not just a hobby side project endeavor, but like legitimate full-time gig, right? Full-time job. Anyway, thank you once again. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button. You know the drill. Min Max Munchkin out, and talk to you soon.